Enterprise juggernaut though it is today, can Microsoft survive the AI era? Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. Today we start off with something that's a little bit different because it's actually the least newsy of our headline stories. There's a bunch of stuff that is theoretically bigger news, but it's a really interesting moment that I think tells the meta story of what's happening right now in ways that we don't always get to see. The history of tech is of course littered with names that failed to make the transition as the landscape shifted around them. Xerox, Bell Labs, IBM, each were a dominant tech company of their era, just as Microsoft is today. It turns out that Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella is, as The Verge puts it, haunted at the prospect of Microsoft not surviving. Speaking to a company-wide town hall last week, Satya said, "Some of the biggest businesses we've built might not be as relevant going forward. Our industry is full of case studies of companies that were great once that just disappeared. I'm haunted by one particular one called DEC." Now, DEC was a mini computer manufacturing company in the early 1970s. The first computer Nadella used was a DEC, and growing up, all he wanted to do was go and work for the company. However, by the early 90s, they had been thoroughly outcompeted by IBM after making a string of failed bets on emerging architecture. In fact, Nadella commented, "Some of the people who contributed to Windows NT came from a DEC lab that was laid off. I think about that, and I think about what it takes for a company not just to thrive at one time, but to continue to actually have the smartest, best people." The comments came in response to an employee in the UK who noted that Microsoft felt, quote, "markedly different, colder, more rigid, and lacking in the empathy we have come to value." And what he might be referring to is the fact that while the entire tech sector has seen layoffs over the past year, Microsoft has had a number of waves where they slashed their headcount. Indeed, Tom Warren of The Verge wrote, "I've spoken to dozens of employees over the past few months, and they all told me that morale inside Microsoft is at an all-time low." Satya continued, "Here we are at our 51st year as a company, and if you look at a set of metrics, we are thriving. But at the same time, when I think about the degree of difficulty that is ahead, for us to navigate what is a changing industry, a changing tech sector, and changing economics, we have some very hard work ahead of us." He said pointedly, "All of the categories that we may have even loved for 40 years may not matter. Us as a company, us as leaders, knowing that we are really only going to be valuable going forward if we build what's secular in terms of expectation, instead of being in love with what we've built in the past." At a time of platform shifts, you want to make sure you lean into even the new design wins, and you don't just keep doing the stuff that you did in the previous generation. You would rather win the new than just protect the past. Look, here's what I would say, at risk of this going long into a full main episode length type of episode. Microsoft came out of the gate very impressively when it came to the Gen AI era. Because of their unique partnership with OpenAI, which not only set a template for partnerships of this era, but also positioned their products as early leaders in actual capabilities. And yet from there, in my estimation, it has been stumble after stumble. I don't think they've done a good enough job keeping pacing between the quality of their Copilot products and what people can sign up with their Gmails, which is one of the biggest complaints that we hear constantly from employees at enterprises, and one of the biggest culprits in why there's still such an epidemic of shadow AI. I think their response to the firing and rehiring of Sam Altman, while I am sympathetic that they had to, from a fiduciary responsibility perspective, start to hedge a little bit and not put all of their chickens in that seemingly chaotic basket, the hiring of a person who's decided to focus their AI efforts on consumer, rather than just aggressively taking advantage of the incredible distribution power they have in their enterprise business, just seems insane to me. Now, that distribution power all on its own, and the amount of lock-in that they still have with businesses, means that I am absolutely not counting them out. I think the moves they've made recently, for example, being willing to put Claude into GitHub Copilot because of what they perceive as its better quality, is the type of thing they're going to have to do to keep on moving. But I will say, whereas, for example, the prospects of Google look radically better than they did 2 years ago when it comes to AI, I think it's pretty hard to deny that the prospects of Microsoft look anything but worse right now. That said, it is exactly this sort of haunting that Satya Nadella is talking about at these meetings that can lead to the big decisions that help companies avoid that fate, and I wish them nothing but luck, and so I am excited to see what big moves they might pursue. One thing that could be really valuable is while people gripe and moan, they still use Teams, and Microsoft is now adding agents throughout their Teams platform. Agents will now sit in and take notes in meeting, help create schedules, and lurk in every channel waiting to help. The basic idea is to have an AI meeting note taker that's also integrated into corporate knowledge bases and other parts of the Microsoft stack, and while that agentic utility may seem simple or basic, it could be extremely valuable for a significant number of teams. The company is also making big bets on infrastructure. Microsoft also announced that they are in the final stages of construction on a $3.3 billion project in Wisconsin. They plan to break ground on an additional $4 billion facility in the area shortly. The data centers are built on land purchased from the failed Foxconn plant, which was commissioned to manufacture LCD screens in 2017 but was never completed. Microsoft is benefiting from building on top of the partially installed infrastructure and site preparation. President Brad Smith says the facility will house hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA Blackwells, and the facility is being designed as a gigantic new training cluster capable of developing Microsoft's next generation of in-house models. Last week, Microsoft's AI CEO Mustafa Suleyman said that the company is making significant investments in the compute capacity they would need to train frontier models for themselves, and this seems to be the manifestation of those plans. Moving over to Microsoft competitor Google, that company is adding a new actor into the AI browser wars. The TLDR is that Gemini is going to be baked in as a default feature of Chrome. Google is also adding AI mode to the Chrome search bar, making it easier to access. While right now there are some very mild search and information-related agentic features, over the coming months, Google plans to introduce many more. They appear to be starting with the standard fare for web agents, things like automatically booking flights and shopping for groceries, but have plans to build in more cross-platform agentic tasks, like being able to sync up across Google Calendar and workspaces. The sheer scale of their distribution is such that for many people, a random little button that says Gemini or AI mode in Chrome is likely to be one of their early interactions with this entire space. Now, if you're noticing a theme in everything getting quietly agentified, you are not wrong. Notion has also revamped their platform around agents, calling it Notion 3.0. The way that the company describes it is this: they write, anything you can do in Notion, your agent can do too. The busy work that fills your day can now be done in minutes. The new Notion agents can create pages and databases, automatically update data, and complete dozens of other tasks. Notion said that their agents can complete up to 20 minutes of work across hundreds of pages at once. They can also connect with outside data sources, including Slack, email clients, and Google Drive. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but the first reports on X are positive. Lily Bodner writes, been using the new AI agent from Notion for the past couple of weeks, and it's awesome. Super fun to use. Normally have multiple agents going across different tabs. Set up a Notion's rule file and created a bunch of new databases that I've been putting off doing manually. As we round the corner on this year and start to think about what the story of 2026 is going to be, the agentification of everything, and frankly, the normalization of agents is, I think, positioning itself to be one of the big themes. It's certainly something that we will continue to keep an eye on here, but for now, that is going to do it for the headlines. Up next, the main episode.